Hello, good morning from Las Vegas. This is Candace, and welcome, Miss Petra, good evening to you. And you're in Italy, was it?
I'm on the west coast of France, so
Oh, what time is
Europe.
it? What time is it there?
Well, we're just about at dinner time, 6 p.m. now. So, yeah,
Um,
evening time for us.
Amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time out to be here, and so that all of our conference attendees can get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thanks for this opportunity to be part of this conference. I really look forward to it. So, yeah, I'm an open book. Whatever is coming, I'm ready.
Right, right. Okay, Petra, your work sits at the intersection of psychology, the nervous system, and human transformation. What led you to explore this deeper understanding of how humans heal and thrive?
Yeah, well, Candace, I think it's probably like a lot of us that we come to certain things because we have personal experiences that bring us there, right? We have our own healing journeys, we have things we go through in life, and there are often questions that come up during those journeys. Myself, I had journeys through mental health challenges. I came through several corporate burnouts and then was diagnosed with a chronic pain condition. So through all of this, I questioned, why is this happening? Not in the sense of why is this happening to me, but why does this happen to some people and not to other people? Why do some people heal and others don't? Why do some people thrive and others don't? And these questions really got me curious as to what happens in our environment, what happens in our bodies, our minds that makes these differences for us. And, I've met with a lot of clients and also with my loved ones and friends and family. I've seen a lot of suffering and people having pain, health challenges, mental health challenges, grief, loss, everything that we go through in our human experience. And I wanted to find a way to support people in those journeys. And maybe we can't fix everything, but we certainly can find things that might support us, give us a little bit of peace, a little bit more joy, connect us back to ourselves, and help us thrive when we have these challenging experiences. So it was a lot of personal things that I went through
Mhm.
that brought me here.
Absolutely. So your own journey through chronic stress influenced the creation of the functional freeze formula. What did your personal experience teach you about the importance of working with the nervous system?
Yeah, I have to say that I definitely knew, anatomically that I had a nervous system before, but
Yeah.
I had no idea how many things the nervous system was involved in. And I didn't really put all those pieces together until I started researching for the book because we are very often taught, and myself included, when you're stressed out, well, just push through it, sleep a little bit longer, like take a day off or spend a day at the lake or something, And I did all those things. And in addition, I did yoga and I did hypnosis. I did so many things, but it didn't make me feel better in the long term. It would last for a little bit, and then I would be back to not feeling great, feeling disconnected, feeling numb, feeling unhappy, unhealthy. And so, really, that is where I became aware how many things the nervous system is connected to. And really, through, I want to say, chronic stress, the nervous system loses its ability to thrive in many cases. And that's where we see it rippling into so many domains in our lives. I mean, we think that the nervous system might only be connected to our health. It is connected to everything. It's connected to our relationships, how we feel, our work, how we lead, even our finances and our prosperity, because all of that is connected to our state, the state that we're in, the state that we spend most of our days in. So that kind of came together when I was doing all that research, and I started cluing into how much the nervous system touches and why it would be so important to actually work with the nervous system.
Can't wait to hear your presentation at the conference. Can you explain functional freeze and why so many people may be experiencing it without recognizing what is actually happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I came across, of course, in my own health journey and mental health journey, is the classic things that we usually all know about the fight, flight, and freeze. So, we have these classic stress responses. In one of them, we get really activated. In one of them, we want to flee. And in one of them, we're kind of frozen. Great, but that didn't explain my experience. There were so many nuances between that. Sometimes it felt like I was in all of those at the same time. And that made me really curious. What is that really all there is to it? Or is there a lot more to our stress responses that we're experiencing? And I actually found out that it is physically possible to be in two opposing stress responses at the same time. So we can actually be activated with the sympathetic nervous system, and we can be, I want to say, in parasympathetic response at the same time, which is more of a dampening, a collapse, the break, right? But we can be in those two at the same time. Nobody ever told me that. And Peter Levine had just a tiny little mention of that in one of his books that I came across, Functional Freeze. So we are functional, we're activated, we are living life because we have to. We are working, taking care of our families, we're getting things done. And at the same time, we're frozen. We are disconnected on the inside. We might feel really empty on the inside, questioning, why are we here? What are we doing? Why am I so unhappy? And this is sort of this mixed nervous system state. Feels like one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. And then you have functional freeze, in essence, where you're doing both. And those competing nervous system states, of course, if you think of driving your car with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, it doesn't take a genius to figure out your car is probably going to break at some point. It's not going to sustain that. And our
Mhm.
bodies are the same way, right? So when we are in this mixed nervous system response for a prolonged time, there definitely is an effect on us physically, mentally, emotionally. Something is going to give when that happens.
Petra, can you share what are some signs that a client's challenge may be connected to the nervous system dysregulations rather than simply mindset or motivation?
Yeah, I think that we can tell often in the patterns that things keep reoccurring. So, for me, these patterns are things when we choose sort of the same relationships over and over that we know aren't good for us and we're not happy in. Or we hit the same health challenges, right? So, some people might be dealing with chronic pain. So, chronic pain keeps coming back over and over. They're doing all the things, they might even be taking medication, and yet there doesn't seem to be a full resolution. Might be mental health challenges or anything else that we're talking about. It could be an income ceiling, right? Some people, they will end up with the same amount of money in their bank account no matter what they do, and they wonder why. So these patterns usually give us a clue that there's something involved in the nervous system that won't yet let us move past a certain state. And we can really only work with a state that our nervous system feels safety in. So when we, for example, take a relationship, right? If we're taking relationships that make us unhappy, we always have the same type of person. We know they're not good for us, and yet we can't seem to choose a different type of person. It's because the nervous system is in a state where that feels like our comfort zone, not yet ready to move on because that's unsafe. And so these are usually the clues when I speak to people, patterns that show up in their lives, and any number of patterns that they might be recognizing throughout different things in their lives. It's not just health, right? The nervous system affects so many things. But
Mhm.
I would say that's probably one of the first clues that there's something bigger going on of what we're experiencing. Yeah.
How can coaches and hypnotherapists help clients access deeper transformation when their nervous system has learned to protect them through old patterns.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love it. And you know what I found over, I think I've worked on this probably about 20 years now. The thing that I found is my way into this is through the body. And any number of practitioners and coaches might have their own preference of how they access so the deeper layers and through hypnosis as well, right? Working with the subconscious. I have found that the body is sort of that access point, and that's why I work a lot with functional freeze, because there I work through the body. And we actually start reconnecting that mind body connection. I feel that's one of the first things that actually gets lost when people are experiencing trauma, chronic stress, when they're having any number of challenges. Usually the mind and the body become quite disconnected, and a lot of people live in their heads. They try to reason through things, they try to logically think through things, find solutions, right? And the body is just this thing that sits here and it doesn't really do anything. So when we start reconnecting the mind and body, we start having a lot more access to our own internal resources. And not just that, we can also affect our own states. We can affect the state our brain is in or how well we function, right? So for me, that access comes through doing body work. And again, there's many different ways. You can do breath work. I do energy medicine. I work with yoga, and I also work with tapping and different kind of other body modalities, somatic experiencing, for example, right? So however people find their way to access the body, but I do feel that a body component is really important in repairing this mind-body connection. And then I find that the transformation actually is much deeper as well. So when we layer together pieces of body work and we create safety in the body and the nervous system first, the modalities like hypnosis, for me, I've seen so much more profound transformation because the nervous system then was actually able to hold these changes that people wanted to make. So yeah, there's magic that happens for me when we work through the body. But I feel every practitioner and every coach obviously needs to find what works for them and also for their clients, right? It's not really a one size fits all because everybody has a different body and a different mind. And so I do work very individualized in that sense to see what works for each client. Yeah.
So you do more one-on-one coaching with clients?
I do one-on-one, not so much anymore now. I'm focusing more on group work because I found that we can work with a lot more people in groups, but there's a certain limit, of course, when people have their own individual challenges that they don't want to share in groups and they prefer one-on-one. So there certainly is a space for one-on-one work all the time. Through group work, it's easier to, I want to say, lay the foundations, maybe general nervous system awareness, general body work, and demo sessions, for example, where people can come together. We can try out some of these mind-body practices. Those are things that work fantastic in group. And then, of course, can become more intimate too when people want to work on their own individual challenges. Yeah.
Okay. So where do you see the future of coaching, hypnosis, and human development moving as science and consciousness continues to evolve?
Yeah, we just had a fantastic conversation about this on the podcast, so I have to smile. I think we are, as human beings, collectively evolving to a point where I think a lot of the things that aren't mainstream right now, a lot of the energy work, a lot of sort of the holistic work, what we call maybe complementary now, or we call it alternative, I think that will come more into a human-centered approach when we're talking about healing and transformation. I feel still there are a lot of people that work holistically and they take the whole person into account, but there also are many systems that don't. And that's where I see a lot of people still suffering, trying to find answers and not really living to their full potential and in their full thriving. So I'm hoping, that the future of this will move to where many practitioners are already moving to, and that is more awareness more focusing on the human being as a whole, a multidimensional being, and bringing all of those things together and really centering on what the person needs, not just saying, okay, well, I have this protocol and I'm going to give this to everybody and, I'm sure it'll work, but really becoming human centered and finding out, well, what is your story? Where have you been? What happened to you? And how does all that come together in your own healing journey? And that's where I hope, and that's where consciousness and evolution, our own personal development, of course, would go that way too, as we collectively become more aware, as we collectively become more conscious as the human race on this planet. I would hope that we all find more peace together, more joy together, more alignment together. And as we are connected in this big energy field, I hope we all share that amongst each other, and elevate ourselves into this happiness. I feel really that being in a state of peace and alignment is our natural state. And that really is what I'm hoping that we will all come back to. And I know a lot of practitioners are already working that way or working towards that. So yeah, that's my hope for the future.
What's the one thing you believe every modern practitioner needs to understand about working with the human nervous system?
I think there's a few things, but really the individuality of it all. I think when we take biology classes or, for yoga, we take a lot of anatomy, human anatomy classes also. We get a picture and then it looks like every human is the same. So we all have the same bones, we all have the same muscles. And yet, when we are in practice, I feel that the nervous system, even though we have all the same components anatomically, is so different for every single person. And that's probably the most humbling thing I have learned in this journey, is that one thing works for one client does not work for the other client, might not even work for me, right? So to keep an open mind and keep that curiosity that each person has their own individual journey, they have their own individual experiences. And even though we might, like I said, biologically sort of have the same makeup, the outcome can be so different for each individual person. So I think keeping that in mind, so that when we work with clients and even ourselves, right? Sometimes I try modalities and they work, and then 2 weeks later they don't. So even for ourselves, right, to keep that open mind and keep that curiosity about, yeah, how are we approaching our healing today, and what might help today, and just be open to the fact that that might change over time as we evolve and grow. Mm-hmm.
So this is really exciting, Petra. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here today. And lastly, can you let our conference participants know a little bit? What are you talking about? What can they expect to hear from you in September at the 2026 conference?
Yeah, I've actually put together a talk, and it's a brand new talk as I'm exploring neurohumanetics. And neurohumanetics is the art and science of thriving through the nervous system. And since I started combining that with hypnotherapy and some of the other modalities that I work with, there are a lot of things that I have come to realize, and I would like to share some of those at the conference on how we can deepen transformation for clients, how we can help them expand on their healing journeys, and by bringing in, as I said, state and the body into the work that we're doing. And I know a lot of practitioners are already doing that. So I think they might find a lot of sort of validation in what they're already doing. But I find this a really exciting field and a place where I've seen so much potential for people to find their own healing and their alignment and their joy, getting their joy back in life. And that for me is sort of the highest thing, is when I work with someone and then I never see them again, because they found the tools to help themselves and they're now managing, and that's the greatest thing. So This is what I'd like to share a little bit in September at the conference is how can we bring state into making changes for people? How can we bring the nervous system in? How can we bring the body in? And a little bit of what I've seen when that happens. So for me, this is really exciting. And I hope for attendees, this will be really exciting too. And just another layer that we can use to support ourselves and our clients.
Well, I'm excited. I know everyone else will be excited. I'm sure we're going to get some great value on that day, so I can't wait to hear your talk. Petra, thank you for your time, and we'll see you next month.